Hello, everyone, and welcome to Escape the Galaxy Episode 3. My name is Marty Sleva. I am one of your hosts, and much like Omega, I've never played catch before. Never tossed a ball. Never. I don't know. It seems like a made-up kind of thing. So it's cool that they introduced that into Star Wars, though.
Hi, I'm Rachel Kaiser, and I want to know why we aren't explaining to Omega what's significant about the fence. We should have clued her in on that.
Hi, I'm Omar Ahmed, and this week all of us are voiced by D. Bradley Baker.
All of us.
Omek himself,
actor, isn't he?
The legend of the Hidden Temple himself. Thank you all very much for joining us. This is Escape the Galaxy, the Escapist new Star Wars show. This is episode 3. We're going to be going over the Bad Batch, episode 2, called Cut and Run. And so we're going to have our thoughts on the episode, what we thought of like kind of the cool sort of connections it had to other Star Wars stuff we liked, stuff we didn't like, where we think the show is going to go. So yeah, this is going to have full spoilers for anything, Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch episode 1 and 2. So if you haven't watched those yet, or you're very hesitant about spoilers, just save this video and come back later. But yeah, I guess we'll go over kind of quick thoughts on the episode. I like that this show is slowly becoming 4 clones and a little lady, being inspired by the hit film 3 Men and a Baby and 3 Men and a Little Lady. But I am hesitant and a little worried that it's encroaching on Mandalorian territory thematically very closely right now. What do you think,
Yes.
Rachel? Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is very heavily encroaching on Mandalorian territory, to the point where they already got to where he's like offering the kid up to somebody else, and then
Yes,
he's like, no, never mind.
I mean, if the first episode of this was technically the first 3 episodes crammed together, that accounts for the first 3 episodes of The Mandalorian. Episode 4 of The Mandalorian is the one where he goes to Sorgan and wants to leave Grogu in that village where he can be happy and be around other children. And what happens in this episode?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like they have to know that. So, like, I can't imagine that this show is going to stick to that for very long before it starts really carving its own path.
You would think that they would know that, but that same Mandalorian episode is the 7 Samurai like homage where he trains a village, and they did that already in the Clone Wars, which really annoyed me when I found that out.
Yeah,
that they had a 7 Samurai episode where they train a village to defend themselves, and so they repeated that, and so like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah, which has been like a Star Wars thing the whole time. I think the trilogies sort of have a rhyming scheme, and I think a lot of the character arcs do. But the fact that we're getting Mandalorian and this with no buffer in between is pretty pretty. I don't want to say alarming, but like pretty obvious to anyone who's watched all of them.
Yeah, should we, describe what's happening in the episode?
Oh, yeah.
I just assume anybody who's watching this has already watched the episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just to fully give context.
Yeah. So it begins sort of immediately where the last episode ended with, the 4 clones minus Crosshair and Omega, and they're jettisoning through space, and they make their way to Saleucami. Is that it?
Saleucami.
Yes.
Saleucami. Yeah, and there they run into, or they purposely go to meet Cut Lawquane, who is the clone we mentioned last week, sort of theorizing that this was who they were going after, and he is the clone from an episode, from a season 2 episode of the Clone Wars, who was a deserter, who just wanted to start a family and didn't want anything to do with the Republic or his fellow commandos or the clones or anything, and so they go to meet him because at the end of the events of the pilot, they just don't know where to go or like where to even start, and so they land on this planet. And I really liked the opening. I mean, I should say I like pretty much everything that all these episodes are doing. So minus my worries that it's being very close to The Mandalorian, like I'm enjoying watching this and I'm enjoying what's happening. And I don't know, I really think the back and forth between Omega and the other members of the Bad Batch and sort of her discovery of this is the first time she's ever touched dirt before, and it's amazing to her. And I think there's like a real like
that was cute.
childlike wonder to it that I really appreciate.
They do, when they go to Cut's house and meet his wife, Sue, the Bad Batch already know them, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that's from some off-screen adventure, because I only remember Cut and Sue from that one episode.
Yeah, they were only in that one episode, and the Bad Batch were only in the 4 episodes in season 7, so they never showed them interacting, but it's implied.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's implied that they met before Echo joined, because Sue says, well, I know 4 of you, but I don't know these 2, and it's, Echo and Omega.
Yeah.
Fair, yeah. And yeah, so this is really petty, by the way, but I'm really glad that Sue is basically wearing more this episode than she was when we saw her in the Clone Wars. Like, I get it. She's on a remote farm. She wasn't expecting anyone to be around but her husband and kids. But at the same time, it's like, she's wearing less than the slave dancers do. Yeah. Was that really necessary? So in this one, she's actually wearing like full on like a proper safari clothes, and we actually get to see her shoot that rifle.
Yeah, that was
finally.
Cool. Yeah,
that's true.
So I was very pleased we got to see more of Sue this episode.
Yeah, she was basically wearing a scarf as a top in the last one.
Hey, that's I don't know if you guys spent a lot of time around farms, but just going all scarf, nothing else, that's a standard Iowa thing, so it's perfectly normal.
Fair.
Yeah. No, and I liked the walkthrough, that there was like that weird, like the big balls of cornfield or whatever the hell they're growing, or like these big spheres of corn. And again, you get a lot of Omega's like amazed by all this. She's lived such a sheltered and narrow life on Camino, and we don't know if she's aging naturally, so if she's actually supposed to be 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, or if she's just aging rapidly at a different pace than the regular clones. But it's clear that, despite her obvious powers or abilities, which we talked about last week, whether she's force sensitive or not, we don't know that yet, but it's clear that she's experiencing so many things for the first time on this journey, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
We had sunlight. Because she lived on Camino.
Yeah.
Which, perpetual rain planet. So she steps out into the sun for the first time and has to shield her eyes. I'm like, oh yeah, this girl's probably never seen sunlight in her entire life.
Yeah, that's wild, right?
So I like that. That's those first few minutes, like you said, just focus on her wonder and her excitement. Like, oh, that's cute.
It does make me wonder how long they're gonna keep her as all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because at a certain point it will get old. She's no Baby Yoda. You can't hold up the kid factor for an entire show.
Fair.
No, but even I think you were mentioning how this is sort of poetry and there's a lot of repetition, and that was Luke in A New Hope. Like, Luke had lived such a relatively small life in such a grand galaxy that him finding Obi-Wan and Han and Chewie and finally leaving Tatooine felt like felt like for the first time in his life his like eyes were truly open to what the galaxy had in store, and that was like a combination of Force stuff as well as just seeing what the larger world is like, which I thought was really cool. And then when they talk to Cut and Sue, they find out that Rex was there just the day before, so they barely missed Rex. We don't know if Rex and Ahsoka are still together. I think
they would have mentioned Ahsoka, wouldn't they?
You would have, you would have thought so. But maybe if they landed, Rex only stopped by and literally didn't even bring Ahsoka out of the ship. Like, you don't know. We don't know post Clone Wars. We know they're hanging out for a while, but we don't know if she's fully gone off on her own. If she's going after Anakin, because at this point, this is so fresh off of Revenge of the Sith that and the end of the Clone Wars, she doesn't know Anakin is Vader yet. So for all she knows, maybe he got killed in Order 66, or maybe he survived, and she's like, well, I have to find this guy. Like, despite the sort of rocky relationship that happened with her leaving the Jedi Academy, like, this is someone I truly love in my life, and I need to find out if they're okay.
Yeah, well, she doesn't find out until Rebels.
No, exactly. Yeah. She doesn't find out until they fight in that Sith temple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she, and at the end of Clone Wars, when Order 66 happens, the last thing that she feels Anakin's pain from the attack on the Emperor when he kills Mace Windu.
Yeah.
And that's what she feels, and then she runs up to Rex and says, something terrible's happened to Anakin, and Rex immediately, that's when he pulls out and things start going terribly, and I cried, and it was awful.
Okay, this is something I want to get into.
Go ahead.
Order 66 and its effect on the clones, because Cut has not been affected, right? He's completely unfazed. He's unchanged.
Correct.
That's a good point.
Is Order 66 only effective if they like turned on their little radio and had like the hologram of Palpatine talking to them and like telling them to execute Order 66, and otherwise they could just like, you know, go about their business?
Yeah, I mean that's we don't know that. Yeah, do they literally like? Is it like a thing they needed to visually see that little hologram of Palpatine, like you said, in order for it to happen, or has he been? Is this such a backwater planet that, you know, whatever the transmission is didn't get to him, or I don't know? Are there like was there like implant chip firmware updates throughout the year that he didn't get? So because he's like version 7.1 and not like 12.0, he's not getting the Order 66 update.
There might be an answer back in episode 1 where right after Order 66 happens on Collar, and they're trying to figure out what happened. They run after Caleb, and they're like, well, what's going on? And Tech says, well, the comms are going crazy. They keep repeating execute Order 66. And of course the Bad Batch are like, well, what does that 66 mean? Yeah. But I think it's an audio thing. I think they had to hear Palpatine say
to hear the words
Order 66.
Order 66.
And it would have, I mean, if almost all the clones are connected to the clone army comms, then every one of them would have heard it. But Cut wouldn't have heard it because obviously he's not part of that anymore.
Sure, like maybe it was like a, you know, when the Emperor had that message, it was like an @all message, and any clone with the comms like immediately got that and heard it. And it is funny because it doesn't seem like the only thing was, you know, the only update to the clones wasn't just, all right, well, we'll kill the Jedis and all right, everything's fine. It just seems like they've become like assholes. Like the clones have become like fascist troopers.
Yeah, they've become Nazis.
Yeah.
Just like marching down the street. Yeah. And this is another thing. I feel like that personality shift has kind of made it a convenient excuse in the show for the Bad Batch to immediately have no regards to murdering clone troopers left and right.
Yeah, I just don't know if like the Bad Batch never seemed to me like their whole thing was that they had like there was none of this like brotherly love camaraderie with the clones and the Republic or anything like. So
regs.
Yeah, the regs, they don't have this, like they were shunned. Like you saw how they were treated in the lunchroom in the pilots. So like they don't, I don't know, they're not bloodthirsty to kill other clones, but at the same time, I think they kind of realize like, well, this is right now, this is kill or be killed. So
yeah,
and they always had a superiority complex because of their enhancements. Which, to me, makes it kind of hard to relate to them as characters, as the leads of this show.
Why is that?
Just, you know, their disconnect from the rest of the clones. If this is a show exploring, like, you know, the clones' experience after Order 66 and leading to the Empire, I feel like they're kind of a strange analog because they're not actually too representative of the clone experience.
I don't know if the show is trying to represent what the clones are going through post Order 66, more so than it's trying to represent sort of in a broader sense what the galaxy is going through. Like we see when they go into town, and because, you know, Cut says, all right, we need to get off this planet. Like this place is like this place is too crawling with clones and the Empire. Like I need to get my family off this planet. And the second they get in town, like you realize that we're witnessing the Republic transform into the Empire, like almost immediately through the eyes of these, you know, characters. And they try to use credits, and they say they can't because they're not attached to chain codes, which I think is really interesting because chain codes were also a big thing in early on in The Mandalorian. When Mando takes the job, he doesn't know what he's going after, but he takes the job from Carl Weathers, and he says, you know, do you have the chain code? And he said, well, we only have the last 4 digits, and that's the age. And so that's why Mando's like, okay, I'm going after a 50-year-old. And that's sort of the bait and switch for Baby Yoda and everything. And yeah, even when goes to the Werner Herzog character later on in the episode. It's the same thing. They're talking about the chain codes and how this person that he's going after is sort of off the grid and doesn't have a full chain code. So it seemed like the second the Republic transitioned to the Empire, like they did a broad sweep and 99.999% of living creatures, got tagged with identification. And the same thing with ships and everything. So it's interesting to see that taking place immediately in the show.
I agree with the idea that it's showing like the immediate aftermath of the creation of the Empire, which is something we didn't really see in Revenge of the Sith, and nor did we see in the Clone Wars. And I mean, obviously that's been covered in lots of other expanded universe material, but I do kind of like that we're seeing it from a sort of like ground perspective, like the civilians. And they do mention, Cut does mention that they had been impounding ships so that nobody can leave without their say-so, but they've been impounding ships for a week, and Order 66 happened like 2 days ago. So they've been planning this for a while, which I thought was interesting detail.
Have they established...
He mentions that Rex passed through yesterday, and I would assume Rex is in a hurry to try to get into hiding after Order 66. But.
Yeah, but it seems like they had Order 66 happened, and then the Bad Batch, went to Kamino, and they had the whole they heard the big the speech from Revenge of the Sith from Palpatine, and then it feels like it's been a week or two. It feels like it's been more than 2 days, at least to me. And I also don't know how long space travel takes. How long does hyperspace still take like a couple days, or is that instant?
Have they ever really established any of that time frame for travel?
I don't know.
It can't be instant because I don't know. There's times where they're just chilling on their ship while it's going through hyperspace, and
right. Depending on, I don't know how far Seleucami is from Kamino. I have not mapped that out personally, but I mean, I'll accept that it's been longer than 2 days, but it still feels like this is something that the Empire, the people who created the Empire would have been planning for a while.
Oh, sure. I have no doubt, Palpatine, it seemed like Order 66 wasn't all right, we did it. For him, it was all right, this pushes the first domino over, and then I've lined up 1,000 other dominoes that are all going to fall. Because we had that, they see the hologram go up of Vice Admiral Rampart, who's an Imperial officer, and he has a Black Series toy on pre-order, so I assume this is going to be one of the main foils, more so than Tarkin. Maybe this will be the guy, what was his name, Callus, the guy
Callus,
who who ended up becoming obviously a good guy, but this is sort of going to be the guy who I think he's going to be in charge of overseeing the Kamino cloning facility and everything, and I feel like he's going to be, along with Crosshair, sort of constantly nipping at their tails as they maneuver through the galaxy and, I don't know, look for Rex or look for other clones that they could possibly flip the switch on as well. And go ahead.
Before we move on, I just want to say that along the lines of this show being about the start of the Empire, I just feel like personally it's been with their thesis being we're gonna answer what happened in this time period. I feel like it's been kind of a disappointing answer as far as this episode is concerned, because I thought the first episode was interesting because after the Empire starting, you have Tarkin investigating the facilities. We're gonna take steps to slowly move back from the clone era to the Imperial era. But now with this, it's all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, you have the same kind of settlements that you have on Ezra's planet in Rebels. It's instantly the Empire's there, and the Empire's doing what the Empire is what to be doing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me it almost makes sense. I totally understand where you're coming from, but it seems to me literally with the clones that Order 66 was able to flip a switch, and you almost didn't need a transition period. They just started doing it, and it just... I don't know. It feels like a bulk of the galaxy was immediately... I don't know. It's almost after... Obviously, not to the same extent, but after 9/11...
we're going there.
No, just after 9/11, Americans as a whole were so willing to give up their rights and the Patriot Act passed with such a overwhelming majority in the Senate that it seems like when an event of that caliber happens, that so many people will immediately just sort of say, well, tell me what to do and we'll do it. even if it's the wrong decision. And you know, it isn't until you get a little bit of hindsight.
But you know, according to most people in the galaxy, nothing really happened. The war ended, General Grievous died, and then all of a sudden the Empire happened, and they said the Jedi were behind it, so it wasn't like anything happened to affect people in their own perception, you know?
Yeah.
It's not it's not like they were, you know, coordinating terrorist attacks all across the galaxy and blaming the Jedi for it, you know?
Yeah.
I do, like, I think I said something last week about how it must seem very unusual that, you know, all of a sudden we're a republic, now we're an empire. But I do think that, you know, when it comes to the people who are just trying to live their daily lives, I think Omar's right. It's not going to make a huge difference to them. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, all of it. It's just that, okay, they're no longer clones fighting droids all over the galaxy, coming along, tearing up our farmland.
Yeah.
So it's just one day we have to turn in our credits and get Imperial credits. We have to get a chain code. You know, we have to, basically it's like, okay, we have to get new driver's licenses now. Fine, whatever.
Yeah. And you do, I feel like various forms of Star Wars media does deal with the idea that, like, the galaxy is so vast that focusing your lens on any one given place or problem means that you're completely blind to a million other problems. Like, there's I'm rewatching Rebels now, and near the end of the near the middle of the fourth season, when they're talking about, like, you know, we need to coordinate all of our efforts on Lothal, Mon Mothma's kind of like, well, and then what? There's like a million of these places. Like, Lothal is like one of 1,000 planets that need our help right now. So, like, the rebellion that ultimately forms realizes, like, you kind of have to, I don't know, like, sadly ignore the smaller issues in focus of what the larger goal is, which obviously by the time New Hope and the Battle of Yavin comes around is the Death Star, and that's the major issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know, that's just kind of besides the point, but yeah.
So
and then
we get I do agree with Omar in that we don't really get a huge broad spectrum view of that in this episode.
Yeah.
It's basically just that tiny little bit of... I don't even need a broad
spectrum view. I just want, like, more nitty gritty. Like, I want an episode that shows you know, Coruscant or something, and we're not going to get that because this is a show about the Bad Batch. But I want to see something like showing that transition, because I feel like that's kind of what I was promised with this. And, you know, back to 9/11. There was
3 words I don't want to hear on this show anymore. But go on.
There was an episode of the Clone Wars that was a 9/11 episode. Do you remember this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The false flag terrorist attack that ends peace talks with the separatists.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to ramp down clone production. We're going to engage in peace talks. We're going to, like, start something with the banks. I can't remember. But then they, like, arrange a terrorist attack and blame the separatists. And it's like, oh no, everybody in the Senate calls for more war, ramp up clone production, back at it. And, like, that kind of stuff is what I want to see. Like, that's why I loved Clone Wars. That's like what got me engaged in that show. And so I feel like there's so much promise in this kind of time period, and they're just not going to explore it because, like, these characters and the, like, section of the universe that they're focusing on isn't going to afford that.
I don't necessarily... Sorry, go on.
No. It's all you.
I was going to say, I don't necessarily agree that they're not going to. I agree they haven't so far. But I also think that I feel like this episode, they wanted to get the whole, oh, let's get the child out of here, you know, let's give her a better life, let's give her to a normal family. I think that's part of the reason it sort of resembles The Mandalorian. I want to say there's a chance it is coincidence, because in both cases they want to get that whole, let's put the child somewhere safe, and then, you know, that's absolutely not going to happen by the end of the episode. And they wanted to get that out of the way quickly so that, you know, to dispense with the ethical implications of involving a child in what's essentially like a lifestyle as a fugitive.
Yeah, and I'm really glad they've gotten that out of the way early. In the same way I'm glad that the pilot, the 3-part pilot, moved the pieces so much quicker than I thought they would. I think this also gets that question out of the way. Like, you have that the line at the end where Hunter says to Omega, if this is where you want to be, then this is where you're going to stay. And that's great. Like, to me, I'm like, all right, well, we resolved that issue, and we're not going to have like a will they, won't they the entire season.
Also, Hunter doesn't really have a choice at that point, so.
No, yeah, they've lost they lost the one good family they could ship them off with. Just don't send them to Alderaan. That's not going to end well for her.
Yeah, we were asking earlier if they were self-aware at all, if, seeing how this compares to The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they might be in that respect, because then they wrote their premise of, like, Hunter and these guys taking care of this girl, and they're like, oh, crap, it's too much like The Mandalorian. Oh, let's get through this in, like, maybe the first 4 episodes, and the rest of it can be something else,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might look back, looking at the show, especially a short, episode, a 25-minute episode, in the moment is different than looking at it in the context of the entire season. So maybe, maybe this is going to feel like such a brief opening compared to where they end up going, in the second and third parts of the season. So, then we got back to the farm for a little bit, and she gets, there was the game of catch that went awry that no one told her not to go beyond the fence, which I feel like should have, like you hit the nail on the head, should have absolutely warned her not to go beyond the fence. She's sort of attacked by a Nexu, which was the cat-like creature in Attack of the Clones that cuts Natalie Portman's back when she's in the weird Coliseum.
Reveals her toned abs.
Exactly. And that's
doesn't that just bare my stomach?
Yeah. We had a nice moment there where Hunter kind of scolds her like he would a member of the Bad Batch, and whereas
Cut is best dad.
Yeah, Cut comes over and is like, she's a child. Like, she's a child and she's scared right now. Like, talk to her like a human being. And I think Hunter's like, oh, I'm not very good at this right now, am I?
Does Hunter have any experience with that whatsoever?
No, I don't know. Have they ever seen children before? Like, no, except maybe like Boba Fett.
The clone children.
Yeah, I guess so, but I don't think they're like...
When they were being grown?
Well, yeah, there's the scene where like there's all the little Boba in Attack of the Clones, and they're all like doing tests and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
but
in Clone Wars, there's the episode where Boba infiltrates them, and they're just like hanging out on ships with the regular clones, or the grown-up clones.
Mm-hmm. Still never teach them how to catch, though. Seems weird that they never taught them. No one ever tossed a ball, and they don't have balls in Kamino. Like, it's wild.
Pretend this is a grenade.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, and then I was just going to say that I feel like the individual members of the Bad Batch are still sort of staying in their lanes in terms of their abilities. Like, Tech is the tech expert. He's the Donatello of the group, and Echo, it seems like his ability is to hack into stuff, like using his USB arm and everything.
He's their droid.
Yep. He's their droid, ostensibly. Exactly yeah.
And I'm cool with that. That's cool.
Yeah, so am I.
Droid. He's their R2D2.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I liked that. I thought that final conflict, everyone got to play a good role, and you got to see how strong and how big Wrecker is compared to standard clones and everything. So that sort of the tension of that scene of, is like Omega going to be able to get to them in time with the chain codes and everything while they're waiting in their papers please line in order to get on their ship and everything. And then, is the guy going to notice that he's a clone? But no, they got pulled away back to the shipyard. I thought that, as a final action scene, I thought that was pretty effective.
How did they not realize that he was a clone?
He's got mutton chops.
Well, I mean, every time they walk past, Cut did this with his hat, and I'm like, that's more conspicuous, Cut.
They also wore very good hats in this episode. Oh my god, the summer hats. This was like, you could tell that this was a Kentucky Derby week episode. The hats, good hats.
I noticed Hunter's not making much of an effort to look less like Hunter.
Also, that dude looks, he's so unique looking.
He is,
and John Rambo, you look like Rambo. Like, you gotta do something. Yeah.
I mean, well, there's when Hunter basically says he wants Omega to live with Cut and Sue and tries to send her off with them. It's like, okay, I got 2 problems with that, Hunter. Okay, first of all, you didn't ask Cut and Sue. You just said, I want her to live with you. And I'm like, they've already got 2 kids to feed. You can at least say please.
Hunter doesn't have the bedside manner.
Apparently not. But 2, have they not considered that Omega is also wanted? I mean, they know she left Kamino with the Bad Batch. They know what she looks like. They know what all the members of the Bad Batch look like. So, frankly, I think you'd be putting Cut's family in danger by sending her along.
Completely agree with that. Yep. Oh well, no, but she took her little diamond off, and so her hair fell down a little bit.
Yeah, so
and with her accelerated aging, if she has accelerated aging, she might look completely different in a year. So
that is true.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that as the Donatello of the group, Tech basically doesn't communicate his master plans to anybody.
Oh yeah, listen,
your communication could use some work, Tech. And
we've all worked with someone who's very good at what they do, but their communication skills are just severely lacking. Where it's like, listen, this could a single email could have solved this entire thing if you just sent it.
I mean, within the first few minutes when, by the way, I don't know if this is a clue against Omega being force sensitive, because we find out that she knew about the inhibitor chips. She wasn't just going up to Crosshair being like, I can feel your pain or whatever.
Yeah.
She was literally saying I know what you are going to be asked to do. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
But when she says, when somebody turns and says, Tech, you didn't mention inhibitor chip. And he said, well, how else did you think it was the order was transmitted? And I said, well, Tech, they aren't going to assume that. You need to tell them these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been transmitted anyway. You need to tell us these things, Tech.
I mean, isn't that all good drama is a failure of communication? So Tech just embodies that.
For Omega, knowing this stuff instinctually, I kind of took it more as her having, she has a close relationship with, what's the name of the Kaminoan lady? I don't remember.
It's like
Nalase?
There you go. Hey, I never would have got that. But
all the Kaminoan names kind of sound the same, so it's okay, swap in
one syllable for another.
So.
Yeah.
Naka something.
But yeah, she has a close relationship with her, so I assume she's just privy to more information because she's a really special case. She's the first female clone, and so she might have just been told, hey, you have inhibitor chips, and you specifically don't have an inhibitor chip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I genuinely hope she's not a Jedi or not force sensitive, because
me too.
That would be one thing that separates it from the Mandalorian. So I still do think there's something with her mutations. I think she might be a Long Island iced tea of the other Bad Batch members and have a little bit of all of them in her. And so, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think she might end up having clearly she has something. She was able to fire that shot at Crosshair in the last episode, a perfect shot to disarm him. So she's got something going on more than just being a, spunky, precocious child.
Were we supposed to recognize the symbol on her jewelry?
I think it was just it's what they wear on Kamino. I think the Kaminoans wear that.
Oh, is
I think it's the same thing that her Kamino mom wears. Her Kamino.
Oh.
I wasn't even paying close enough attention.
Yeah,
I
think
it's
just
a close-up zoom on it. So I was like, am I supposed to know what that is?
I think it was mostly, I could totally be wrong, and please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think it was more of her sort of officially putting her past on Kamino behind her. Because I think that's the same thing that whichever, again, Nalase or whichever Kaminoan was her caretaker was wearing. Yep. A bad caretaker who did not teach her how to play catch. So, there's that. Womp womp. So any final thoughts on the episode itself or predictions where we might be going next week?
I have two.
Okay. Go ahead.
One related to what we were just talking about. Cut also says in the episode, sort of repeats what we already knew, which is that the Kaminoans, they don't make defective clones, they make the clones with strange mutations for a reason. Mm-hmm. And in the last episode, we also got Nalase talking to the Kaminoan Prime Minister, and they're sort of having a little hush-hush behind the scenes, don't tell Tarkin. I like the idea that maybe the Kaminoans had something going on that behind the scenes, some kind of a failsafe, maybe.
Yeah.
They're up to something, and I like that, because up to now, the Kaminoans they've been participating, they're just the people who made the clones, but as far as we know, that's the only, we don't know what they might have been we've never gotten any indication that they were up to something.
And I think that the interesting thing about that is clearly they were cognizant of Order 66. So it would be interesting if they implanted something in Omega as a failsafe against that, or if there's something in her that can obviously not there's not like an Order 67 that's going to fix everything, but you can't bring those younglings back to life. But
maybe she rescues Grogu.
Oh, okay, that'd be the.
I made a new prediction. If that happens, credit me.
It's not going to be Ezra. It's going to be her. That is interesting because we don't know like what the hell's Grogu doing at this time.
I mean, he was on the Jedi Temple in Coruscant when this all went down, and then he was taken away and hidden, and that's all we know. So
we don't know.
I'm kind of hoping that maybe, I mean, if they tie the Bad Batch into that, I'll be a little annoyed, but I'll also be really happy in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, will we see Grogu in animated form? I mean,
Grogu cameo appearance confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. Grogu in the Star Wars Holiday Special confirmed. I can imagine a Grogu at the top of the tree. That seems pretty likely, actually.
Adorable.
You've given me an idea for this Christmas.
Beautiful.
But the Life Day.
Oh yeah.
But second prediction, one with perhaps more immediate consequences. As far as I can tell, Omega does have a registered chain code now, doesn't she? So when they forged it, they made one for Omega. She went through security, and then she circled back around and was like, no, I want to be with the Bad Batch. She circles back around and joins up with them. So she does technically have a chain code registered to her name. So
the thing is, did she keep it? Because they could only get chain codes by getting those big, like Palm Pilot.
Those
Once the chain code is registered to an individual, presumably also with some kind of a identifier, like a visual identifier.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about the logistics of that. I just assumed that they're all going to have one now, because if they were going to make them for the 5 of the, like the 4 family members and Omega, they should probably also make them for themselves, because those might come in handy if they want to buy something later on. Like, I just imagined that they made a bunch of them for all of them, right?
I mean, possibly, but if they didn't, Omega might be the only one with a chain.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Might make future episodes interesting.
Yeah, and that go ahead, Omar.
Sorry.
We're too polite on this show.
I know we're too polite.
Talk.
My thing, really quick, them trying to go through customs and the chain code thing and the security gate, that reminded me a lot of the beginning of Solo, when Han and Daenerys Targaryen, I can't remember her solo name, Kira, are trying to escape the planet and trying to get off, and you have that like sad moment where they're on the other sides of the gates, and so that I liked that. By showing it in this episode, you're like, oh, this was like a thing on every single planet. Like, this very quickly became the new norm.
I was gonna say, I feel like if they were gonna make chain codes into more of an important thing, they should have established that, and like established if these guys got them, because the entire point that they were there was to like learn how to lay low and keep out of the limelight. But they didn't really get that. They kind of just showed up and then Cut and Sue were like, hey, we're out. Peace.
Yeah, they didn't. There was no idea of like, they're like, all right, well, this is our first step, and then our next step is blank. You're like, what's going on now? Like, what's the plan now?
Cut kind of said that when he's like, well, you want to know how to lay low? You got to leave the life of a soldier behind you and start a new life. Like, thanks, Cut. That's really helpful.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
We'll start a big corn orb farm.
Why don't they just take over their farm? Take over the LaQuain's farm.
That seems like a good idea. Yeah.
Just pretend to be Cut and Sue.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Wrecker can be Sue.
Wrecker would he's already got the hat. He's already got the hat game down.
He would be down for that, totally.
Yeah, I could see next episode opening with them like with a handful of the little code Palm Pilots and being like, all right, what do we buy now?
Yeah.
Where to now?
Yeah.
Where are they going?
I imagine they're going to try to find
Rex,
right? Like, I feel like that's ultimately whether they get to him next week or there's constantly you just missed him kind of thing, which a lot of media does. I feel like that's their next step, or that's their like main goal, is finding him and figuring out what the hell's going on. And clearly he knows something about the inhibitor chips that they don't. So.
Yeah.
I mean, if the first few episodes of this show are all about trying to find Rex, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And we know that Fennec's coming up soon. That's Fennec. That's the name of the bounty hunter from
Mandalorian.
Yeah, so we know a young version of Fennec's coming up. And so I'll be curious, what other major Star Wars characters make an appearance. We already had, obviously, that awesome Caleb Doom little cameo, which did, a lot of people were kind of curious of why it deviated a bit from the comics backstory. Like, it was on the same planet, but how Order 66 and him escaping went down very differently. But I'm curious if there's going to be more of that going forward.
More cameos?
I guess more cameos, like more, tying things directly. Like, we got, Caleb and Saw Gerrera out last week, and so are we going to see, young, like, Bail Organa or, other characters from Rebels? Or
I'm sure we'll see Hondo.
I'm sure we will too.
I hope we see Cad Bane, because I think he's a fun character.
I agree.
Well, they did. I did see on YouTube they released a preview of the next episode, and it does seem to indicate that the Bad Batch are like trying to get money by doing mercenary work. I mean, that's what I took away from the clip that I saw.
I need Werner Herzog, animated Werner Herzog. Just give me him.
Show me the baby.
I guess in theory, he'd be pretty young, right? Or younger. He'd be like 30 years younger.
Sure.
I want to see the baby.
I think it's only 17 years between this and A New Hope. Well, no, it's
but the Mandalorian's post.
Yeah, that's
post Jedi.
So
yeah,
I guess like 25
It'd be a
years.
while.
Give me baby Herzog. I'm done with Baby Yoda. I want Baby Herzog.
We need a baby in every new series. Of some kind.
Exactly.
And Omega's not quite scratching that itch.
No, too much of a child. Maybe she'll age backwards like Benjamin Button. Everything will be fine.
Ooh,
and she'll turn into a little clone baby.
Yeah, exactly. The last Star Wars thing we wanted to talk about, Disney Plus this week also put up two, multiple shorts. One of them is called Star Wars Biomes, and it's a 20-minute, the gist of it is just like a non-narrated version of Planet Earth, the documentary, but it does flyovers over like 6 different Star Wars planets. And for a 20-minute watch, I thought it was pretty neat. Like, Omar, I know you watched it too. What do you think?
It's the kind of thing that would sell TVs in a Best Buy.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And so you're going over Hoth, and you sort of hear the wind, and there's light music, and then you see some Tauntauns scurry by. Yeah, the walkers. You see a Rebel transport ship escaping Echo Base, and you get those on Tatooine, on Crate, and on Mustafar, and Ahch-To, and I think the planet from that Seven Samurai episode of Mandalorian, right? That was what was that? Sorgan.
That was the least interesting one, in my opinion.
Because we also just didn't know, we don't know anything about that planet.
Yeah, I mean, the only things that happened.
There's nothing to know.
No, you see the Razor Crest
flew in, and then there was just like a long shot of the village for the next few minutes.
Yeah, and I was even thinking, I was like, was there something notable about this planet? I'm like, oh no, we're on the next planet.
I mean, the Mando literally says as they're pulling up, is like, hey, there's nothing interesting about this place, which means it's perfect for us.
I was hoping for an Endor one where it'd go over the Ewok village, or you'd see the Death Star, that base that's on there that has the shield generator and everything. But
my guess is they didn't have the rights. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, you see the Ewok village, and then you see all the debris of the Death Star just crash down and
destroying the Ewok
village.
Yeah,
everything gets set on fire.
My guess is they didn't have the rights to film in the real world location where that was set. So, I guess that's why.
Wasn't that just in the redwood forest in Northern California?
Yeah, George Lucas owns it.
Yeah,
that's I'm giving you my best guess of why they would include that, of why they would include Sorgan but not that. Sorgan, which literally could have been filmed in my backyard.
Lucas just walked outside with a camera.
He's like, I did it. Jedi. Just use this. Faster and more intense. And then the other thing is vehicle walkthroughs, which is a pretty forgettable, but it's a quick walkthrough of the Millennium Falcon and then a Star Destroyer, and just neat. I think it's cool that they're using Disney Plus to sort of pump out these little things. I can imagine as a kid putting that on and being amazed by it.
I just wish they had more behind the scenes stuff. This is the thing I miss from DVDs and Blu-rays. I want behind the scenes things they have the making of Mandalorian,
which is really cool.
A whole series, yeah.
Yeah, which if you haven't seen that, that's really cool, especially because the Unreal Engine, that cool crazy 3D space they film in. Like, that stuff's wild. That's like, and that's also a lot of people think he's like the future of genre filmmaking right there. So
yeah.
Would they be able to do anything of comparable interest for the Bad Batch, because that's an animated show?
Yeah,
Sure,
I mean, I think like cool put together packages with voice actors and episode directors and writers and stuff for animators.
I think commentary tracks would be fun.
Yeah, I would love to hear Filoni commentary tracks on, like, when you think about the like major episodes of like Rebels, like the World Between Worlds, like the sort of the time travel-y thing, like that would be so cool to hear commentary from someone on that.
Yeah.
Which maybe that exists on DVDs and Blu-rays, and I don't buy those anymore, so who knows?
We'll have to see what Disney Plus comes up with.
We in the Plus we trust. What the hell is a DVD? All right. I think that about wraps it up. Thank you all for joining us. Once again, my name is Marty Sleva. You can find me on all various forms of social media at McBiggity. We have a lot of good stuff on The Escapist right now. You can look up our impressions of Resident Evil Village and of Returnal, and I have a weekly column that goes up Mondays called The Takeaway. That's about sort of the biggest story of the week, and I unpack it. Rachel? I
am Rachel Kaser. You can find me at Rachel Kaser on Twitter. Pretty much all of my stuff goes through Twitter, so it's RACHELKASER, all one handle. And pretty much all of my social media gets cross-posted to my Twitter, so if you go there, you can find pretty much everything, including all my latest articles at The Escapist.
And
Omar?
I'm Omar Ahmed. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Yomars. That's MRYOMARZ. I promise I'll tweet more when I get around to it. And you can find all my work right here on The Escapist.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So for Rachel and Omar, my name is Marty. This was Escape the Galaxy episode 3. And we'll see you all next week for looking at the Bad Batch episode 3. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.